quick. Always good timing. Happens to be our guest. 1 second. Try again. There we go. Okay. All right. We'll just we'll do a little bit of our normal like housekeeping stuff while we see if our cute guest can get on. Okay, it is Wednesday. It's Wednesday, and it's Wednesday, December 8th. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe, like, it's December 8th. How, like, are you in the same kind of like shock of how did we get here so quickly? I know that it's been a really crazy sauce year, and maybe that's part of what's made it feel like it's gone super fast, or I don't know, maybe just age makes it go fast. But December 8th, so awesome. Okay, so let's just do a couple of recaps. We are still working on getting Lauren Neves to be a guest. It's holidays, and so it's been a little tricky to reschedule with that. We'll get it done. Today we have an amazing guest, and I have a cool lineup in store that we're working on finding dates and places for these other people. So, oh my gosh, I'm excited. I'm excited. And I'll tell you what, today is a practice in let's get it out there, even though it's not perfect. You know, those days where you wake up and like, it's a good day. Let's be real. It's a good day. It's a good day because I'm choosing to have it be a good day. How about you? But I did get up this morning and my head kind of hurt, and it was just like, there she goes. She's on. It's my head was fuzzy, and I came downstairs and I sat down to concentrate and do some work on the computer, and I wasn't able to, or I really just wanted to go back to bed. And I sat here and I'm putting together a presentation. I've been thinking, okay, this presentation, it doesn't, like, where I'm thinking it needs to go isn't where it's feeling like it needs to go, although I'm really unsure of where it exactly needs to go. And so I sat down at the computer, pulled up the presentation. I've already put together like 12 slides. I've spent time on it. I've spent, time working on the computer, time working on the thoughts. And I went to click and it said saving error, and the presentation can no longer be worked on. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And I thought, well, maybe that's a sign. So I just let it be. Actually did go back up and just snuggle in bed for about 30 more minutes. And I have been able, just for those of you who are having a small, like, if that happened to me moment, thank you to my daughter, I have been able to recover or make a copy of that presentation, and I can now add to it and move in a different direction. But it's that get it out there versus being perfect, which is what I love about today. Had some issues with getting some things going today. And I love this thought of the, oh my gosh, see, thinking. I have so many things running through my mind. It's the getting it out there, even if it's not perfect. Like, done is better than not making any effort at all. This is what I love about live and unscripted, is that we don't edit this. I don't sit down afterward and make sure that we have to bleep something out, or that we are live and we are real and we are raw. It's we're putting it out there versus not doing anything at all. And so thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being part of the real, for actually being a part of the rebel, bringing your rebel to us, because this is how we get stuff done. We just start taking the steps. And I'm really excited to talk about this a little bit later. I'm pretty sure it's going to come up about just taking the steps and getting stuff out there and correcting or making corrections later versus never doing anything at all. So, okay, with that, let's do some breathing. I feel like I need some breathing. And we're going to do it like we did last time. And just, I'm not going to give you any breathing clues. You can breathe in a box pattern if you want to. You can breathe just in deep breathing, or you can just sit and focus for the next 30 to 60 seconds and just breathe. I am going to invite you to still do it with closed eyes or a downward gaze, whichever one is most comfortable for you. This is an opportunity to just let go of everything that's happened already in the day. And if you're like me, a lot has happened already. Let it go. And to just let go for this moment and for this hour, anything that we're projecting on what's going to happen for the remainder of our day. So 60 seconds, just breathe in a way that brings you present to right here, right now, where you can lend to us what we're doing so that we make sure that we feel you, because we'll feel you, and we'll present to you the great nuggets that will be most useful for you today. So again, downward gaze or closed eyes, and just notice your breath. Feel it go in, and then breathe it out. Good. Take about 10 more seconds. Oh, I love that. What do you recognize? What do you feel inside yourself when you take just that short time out? For myself, I love that I just feel things start to settle. I feel my mind start to slow down a little, which then leads to me being able to be in the present moment, where it's always healthier and best to make decisions because I can be in my heart. I can make decisions from a brain and a mind that has slowed down versus feeling like I'm making those decisions in an urgent or on fire state of mind. For me, I love that I start sensing my body more. I sense like how I'm sitting in the chair or how my feet are sitting. I can actually feel my clothing hang on my body. And I love it. So thank you for practicing it with us today. And remember, this is a tool that you can use anytime, anywhere that you get in a place where like, you just start feeling all the, just slow down. Just take just a minute, especially in traffic. I call it taillight meditation. Same thing, just done in traffic. Notice the taillights in front of you and then breathe. Slow down, breathe. I promise this little tool will make a huge difference in your world. Institute it, practice it many times a day, and then let me know. Let our guest today know how it works for you. Speaking of our guest today, I'm so excited to have her here, and she's arrived. She's hanging out in the green room, which looks like it might actually be blue because she's in her own room. Okay, so unlike many of my guests, I actually know today's guest. I've had the opportunity to hang out with Anna-Liisa on several occasions and to actually spend a week here and a week there on vacation. And we've had deep conversations. We've had real and raw conversations. And this is a soul who I just adore. And this is a soul who has learned how to be real. She knows how to take the things that come and, maybe she battles with them like lots of us do. And then she's able to just sort it out and move forward in healthy and powerful ways. Like you and like me, there's lots of stuff. She's been knocked down. She's been rolled around on the ground. She's got, dust all over sometimes and bruises here and there, but has learned that they heal. And she also has a dirty little secret, and I'm super excited to share what that dirty little, well, I'm not going to share it. She is, because it's hers to share, not mine. So with that, I'm going to bring to you Anna-Liisa Duncan. Let's bring her up on the screen. You're going to get your own countdown here, Anna-Liisa. There it is. Oh, hey! How are you?
Good. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good. It's always good to be heard and seen.
Yes.
Right? Oh my gosh. This has been a long time in the coming. I don't know why. Sometimes I think, why do I wait so long before I ask people? And then I go, it doesn't matter. It happens when it's supposed to.
That's right.
So I'm super excited to just kind of go with the flow today and see what comes out. But first of all, thank you for joining us. Thanks for sharing your time.
Absolutely.
And anything you want to start with, you want us to know about you, not that thing yet, that I may have missed. I mean, I know there's
I
lots.
know. I feel like we're all on a journey. We're all on a journey to become, and I feel like I found that when I met you and the people that we spend time with, and I feel like we're all just becoming. So we just need to be patient and work on that.
Right? My you see me I'm like moving my chair because my camera is backwards. Is your camera backwards?
I don't know. I can't tell.
I don't know how to switch it. So I think I'm in the center and then I'm not. And then I move. I'm like, wait. So if you see me shifting, I'm trying to get myself back into center. Okay. So let's just get started. Because you know where I'm headed when we're done with this conversation. I'm so excited. Anna-Liisa, a few weeks back, stepped up to the plate and was part of a team of people who helped do a big service project where we painted the inside of somebody's house. Dude, we knocked out the whole house in like 3 hours. It was fantastic. And today we're going to go in and hang their backsplash. So I'm super excited to continue watching this transformation. If you're bored afterwards, come on over. Come on over. Right. Bored. What's bored?
Yeah, I don't know that word.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I like to start. The only question that is standard in Alive and Unscripted is the first one. The rest of them just come as we get going in the conversation, and I'll ask those as they come. But the first one is this: what were you like as a little kid, and what did you want to be when you grew up? I guess that's two.
Okay. That's fine. So I was a social butterfly. I probably still am a social butterfly. But I'm the oldest of two brothers, and I definitely was the outgoing one, always wanting to participate in things and talk to people and go places and got in trouble at school because I didn't like to sit down because I wanted to talk to everybody. So that's how I was. And I think I wanted to be a lot of things when I grew up, but I really wanted to be a mom. That was probably my number one thing. But then I love to write. And so being an author was always on the table, something that I wanted to do. So it's a little bit about me.
Awesome. What were you like in junior high school?
I was in choir and theater. I took lots of, I love English. I took a lot of English classes, like the honors English and that kind of thing. And again, just super social, lots of friends, like to go and do.
That's cool. Okay, so this question just came to mind. I don't think I've ever asked anyone this. Looking back on your youth, elementary through high school, what were some of the lessons or things that you learned that really stood out for you that helped propel you forward?
I think I learned that, well, a couple of things, but one, that sometimes you have to be the first person. And that was always me. And I was very comfortable being the first person to talk to somebody new, but as I got older and became more aware of other people, I realized that not everybody is like me. Not everybody's willing to be the first person. So sometimes, even when you're feeling uncomfortable, it's go be the first person, because there are other people that want that spot. They're just not brave enough yet. And right. Being an example.
I love that. Be the first person. I haven't heard it put that way before. So how have you taken this lesson of be the first person? How has that assisted you or helped you in your lived experience?
I feel like I always have a friend because I'm willing to just go talk to people. And and that's how you make friendships. And I mean, I talk to people in the line at the store. I just love to talk to people, and I feel like there are people that I've met in my life that I never would have met if I hadn't gone and said hi, and they're good friends now, or just friends. And so I think that my circle is big because I'm the first person, and that's benefited me to have lots of people in my court.
I love it. That's part of it. Probably part of why we click is because in lots of instances, I'm not afraid to be the first.
Yeah.
in fact, in life in general, taking that, sometimes you have to be the first to a deeper level. Like in my world, I always knew that I would have to be the first by way of being a chain breaker. Is that something? So if we go there, like, is that something that in your family or your history, have you had to play that role more than just like talking to other people and making friends, or being the first to jump in and do an assignment or whatever? But have you found yourself in the role of first by way of breaking patterns, destructive?
Oh, absolutely.
Or
And I think some of it has to do with the luck that I've had in my life, because I am adopted, and about 3 years ago, I met my birth family, finally, my birth mother, and the luck, and she lives a completely different lifestyle than I do, and so I kind of lucked out in the way that I didn't have to go through some of the things that my half siblings have gone through, but also that I feel like my drive to change probably aided me in that, because some people come into life with a background. You come into life with a background, you know your mom, you know your dad, you know your life history, you know where your grandma went to school. I didn't have any of that because I'm adopted. So I kind of had to create my own story. My whole life I've had to create my own story because I didn't know a backstory. And I think that aided me because I wasn't stuck in a family genetic norm, you know what I mean? And so I could really be whoever I wanted to be. And that was, I think that helped me to break probably all kinds of things that if I hadn't have been adopted and continued in the lifestyle with my birth parents, I definitely would have been a completely different person. But because I had this opportunity to be whoever I wanted to be, then I just ran with it and did it.
That's really cool. It's a great way to look at it. Okay, but I'm going to take it just a little bit deeper and farther, because you said you met your birth mom now, and you can see the path that you could have been on. So now that you said you got to make up your own story, like super cool. And by the way, we all get to make up our own stories, even if we have family background. But even knowing you didn't know the family background, you still had one, but you didn't know it until like 3 years ago. How has that affected the last few years of your life? Like understanding like, oh, wow, okay, maybe I could see that in myself and I didn't know where it came from because I grew up with this family and things like that. And then taking that concept of sometimes you have to be the first. So how has that played a role, and like how? Like that's kind of big mind-bending stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I knew that I had a little bit of knowledge of my birth parents, and that neither of them graduated from high school. I graduated from high school. I have a bachelor's degree in English. So education-wise, I've done a lot more, even than my half siblings, my half brothers. But I think it's made me so much more grateful for what I have, for what my life has been like and what my life gets to be like, because I've made choices that I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm moving in that direction, whereas it could have been so different. And so I think just taking advantage of that blessing that I had the opportunity to see a different life, to live a different life. And I think that has encouraged me to be the first, and I've been able to introduce my birth mother to things that was not in her wheelhouse before, because of
cool.
the life she lived before. Now, and it's just fun because to see her learn and grow too.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
So based off of what you just said, then I'm going to insinuate that you get to see your birth mom like on more than just like rare occasions. Like you have interaction with her then.
Oh yeah, we talk on the phone twice a week probably, and I see her every couple weeks.
That is really cool. And I love that you said you're able to share these things with her and start creating some shifting and some change. And that's huge. Like many years ago when I started down this spiritual path and learning about family systems and studying the 12 steps and just all of the woo-woo, amazing woo-woo stuff. One of the things that we learned, and I believe John Bradshaw, we learned it in his works, is he talked about when, and I love this because even though you grew up with the mom you grew up with, you still have some of the things, some of the genetics, but when a mom changes, it affects all the way down the chain. It affects when a mom starts taking care of her issues, the child then doesn't have to play them out and reflect them back to her. And when a dad decides to jump on and do the same thing at the same time, like magic can happen. So I think it's like super awesome that one, you got to grow up in the way that you grew up and recognize these things and recognize that, wow, I don't know my background. So you didn't have that. I mean, I would imagine that comes with its own its own hiccups, its own like questions and concerns and what ifs, but that you were able to create that and that you're able to give that gift to your kids, but now your mom shifting. Like I just think like, and I can see this awesomeness coming down the chain, even though she's at the age that she's at, which is still pretty young because you're pretty young. But just like all of the change, like it's so exciting for me. I don't even know if I made any sense, but it made sense to me. It's so cool. So cool. Okay. I know there's more to that story. Is there more of that you want to tell? I know that you and I have talked, we've had an opportunity to talk more about that, but is there more of that you want to share?
I think the biggest thing about that part of my life, the being adopted part, I believe that is why I'm able to be creative in my mind like I am. Because like I said, I got to create my own story, but like I quite literally created stories. And that has fueled the creativity that has led to doing what I want to do, doing what I love best. And so, sometimes people think, oh, I feel sad for her that she didn't know her family or, her, where she came from and all that. But it literally helped me become who I am becoming. And so I think that that's part of the story, but it's also helped to aid me as I continue to become.
I love it. I love how you danced around the rest of this topic too. Well, and I actually appreciate what you're saying because I do think there's been that I have recognized anyway, that there's been kind of this stigma of like, oh, they're adopted, and you say they feel sad, they don't know that, like that is a thing. I still hear it, but I love that you're like, let's change the narrative of this story. Like, yes, I didn't know that, and it would be nice to know that for various reasons. I was just having this conversation with a friend, and he said, I didn't want to know my family because I didn't feel loved or like I already had a family. I wanted to know for this health reasons was usually a lot of the big things. And, I wanted to know like maybe why I did this because it's different than how I grew up, but I still have this tendency to do this thing. And so I love that you're just saying like it's perfect. Basically what I heard you say, it was perfect for me to start being and continue being who I am. And the creativity part of it. So as you were talking about that, I thought, okay, did your creativity, I can't spit that
That's
word
right.
out. It's like stuck right here. In your creativity, did you see yourself being a doctor one day? Because I watched that happen.
Well, no. I think that I love learning, and so it was easy for me to learn how to be a doctor, how to perform surgery on someone's foot.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You guys, this is like the craziest story, and we're not going to go really deep into it. But I watched this woman. Okay, I took some girls on a hike. It was an easy hike.
Not in flip-flops.
And one of them chose to go in flip-flops because they were told it wasn't easy. I can't get my hands in the phrase easy hike. It was not an easy hike. And there were a lot of tears, and there were a lot of celebrations, a lot of conquering of demons, literally like personal demons. And on the way down, there was a small tragedy with someone's foot and flip-flops, and a large portion of said person's heel flopped open. And she still had to hike out. Like, we still had, yeah. And I watched this person on the screen say, we need to cut that piece of skin off. I'm like, oh, not only no, but hell no. You're not cutting that piece of skin off. Like, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're not cutting that piece of skin off. And she's like, you want to bet? We almost had an Indian wrestling match. Almost. But
which Jen would have won, by the way.
I don't know. You're pretty Spitfire. But what was really cool is I watched her show a set of confidence that, like, when I tell you that her and Tiffy have a bag of tricks, I am not even kidding you. These guys are dance moms, and they literally have a bag of things that they carry. And in this bag, they had tweezers and pretty much everything to perform surgery, including a clove cough drop. And
that was Tiffy's idea.
Yeah. I watched them melt down this cough drop and put it on said person's foot and to clean it, because clove is antibacterial, and guess what? It's also a number. So I watched as Anna-Liisa performed surgery of cleaning out all the gunk that was left in this flap of skin and on the raw, alive skin, and then watch her cut off this flap of skin. And it wasn't little. It wasn't little. No. Somebody had to be first.
Well, you do what you got to do sometimes.
Have you ever done anything quite so crazy with your bag of tricks?
No. I fixed a lot of costumes, but no, not any people really.
It was amazing. But in her bag of tricks, she also has this. This is one of the things that endears me to Anna-Liisa, is she has this ability to love people, to just see people, to just recognize and see past the shiz of a person, the behaviors, the actions, the things that they do. She's got an uncanny gift of this. And I'm going to guess some of that comes from your growing up experience. Some of it comes from sometimes you just got to be first. But why else do you think that is? Why do you feel like you have this? I'm going to call it a gift. And also an ability that everybody has if they're willing to develop it. Why do you think this is something that you like? I've watched you interact with all kinds of people and treat them with equal amounts of love and respect and conversation, and it's a really endearing quality.
Well, thank you. I think some of it is definitely learned, like the fact that my mom could take other people's children in and just love them like her own. That definitely played a lot into that. But also, I think I treat people the way that I want people to treat me. And I know what my flaws are. I know what I struggle with. I know what my life is. And it's hard. And it's ugly. I mean, we know it's ugly. And so I don't want to be the reason that someone's life is hard, because that's not fair. We're already struggling with things. So why don't we just love and accept? I mean, I'm doing my best to live my life and you're doing your best to live your life. Why don't we just help each other? Help each other with our struggles, because that's really what we need. We don't need another
Absolutely.
critic. We don't need someone to tell us what we're doing wrong. We do enough of that on our own. We don't even need anybody to do that. But, and I just think, you know, you get your Sunday school answer, what would Jesus do? But in the long run, it's how would I want someone to treat me if they knew all my backstory? And that is love. Love and understanding and acceptance, because we need cheerleaders in our lives. And I'd rather be somebody's cheerleader than judge somebody for what they're doing in their life.
Absolutely. So, which is fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. As you were talking, I was thinking about being able to love people in a healthy fashion, because sometimes the people that we come across have a lot or could have challenging behaviors or toxic behaviors or unhealthy behaviors. So how do you go about treating people as you would want to be treated, yet still have boundaries that are healthy for you, but also that are protective for that other person? So although sometimes it doesn't feel protective for them, how do you go about that so that you stay healthy, so that you stay in the most raised energy space so that you can continue doing what you do well?
I think that one, we have to realize that we can't change people. I mean, we can have an impact on people, but we can't change them. We can't change their behavior. And I think when we stop trying to change them, it's easy to take a step back when we feel like they're putting themselves on us. And I can say, hey, I love you for who you are. I love you as a person, but I don't love your behavior. And you can say that and not be mean. And I
I
think
agree.
I think that takes time to know how to say that. But I read a really good book called Unhooked. And in the book, it's about addiction, but it talks about getting off the beach and how the person that's struggling with addiction is in the boat and they're splashing water all over you, even though you're standing on the beach. Sometimes you have to get off the beach. And that doesn't mean that you're abandoning that person in the boat. You're just not letting them get you all wet. And so we both have a sweet, sweet friend. And there are things that she does that's hard to deal with. She's dealing with her own personal issues and changes. And sometimes you just have to say, hey, I love you, but can you not talk like that? And usually, if you're coming to somebody in kindness, they usually respond in kindness.
Absolutely. Which has been, I mean, we have proof of that in this instance, which I really love.
Yeah.
Are boundaries easy for you?
Oh, no. I'm a yes ma'am girl. I will help anybody or do anything for anybody, and it causes problems. So no, boundaries are very hard for me, especially when it comes to family.
Yeah. So how do you, knowing that it's healthy to have boundaries? I think it's Brene Brown that says the most wholehearted, happy people have really great boundaries. So how do you start implementing that for yourself, knowing that it's a challenge? Because it was a challenge for me for a really long time, and in some instances still is.
I think that you have to recognize, and you do this so well, in recognizing that this is my journey. It's not my husband's journey. It's not my kids' journey. I'm in their journey. I'm part of their journey, but I'm not their journey and they're not my journey. And so when you finally start to realize I need to be following my heart, I need to be making myself healthy, having healthy relationships, it makes it so much easier to set boundaries, because yeah, you might make some people mad, and you do oftentimes make people mad when you set a boundary. But eventually they come, if they care about you and want to be in your life, they come around. And
Absolutely.
but you can't be wearing yourself down trying to fit in someone else's journey, because it's your journey. And I think
I,
you do that very well. You take a step back and say, I'm doing this for me.
thank you. Thank you. It's taken me a lot of years and a lot of like heartache to figure that out, that just because I set a boundary, like for me, it actually is the most kind and loving thing that I can do, because then I'm having an interaction that is honest, and it's genuine, and I can be real. I'm not like having to say something that I'm going to have to later backtrack, or I'm dishonoring myself and therefore dishonoring the other person. And it's taken a long time. So I appreciate you recognizing that.
And I think
Um,
that's something, especially that I love about you, is that you're real. Because so much of our lives are fake. Our interactions with people every day are fake. Like, you never go up and tell somebody actually how you feel. That would be weird, one
right.
thing. But it's a safety thing too, you know.
Yes.
But
Yes.
when you're trying to build relationships with people, they have to be real. They can't be based on, on false stuff. You have to tell a real story. If it's your story, it needs to be real, and people appreciate genuine.
I fully agree. And for me, uh, I think that's something that I knew as a really young person, is that when I was vulnerable at a young age, I knew the word vulnerable, and I knew what it meant. Like in my heart, I knew what it meant. And that if I was real, then I was allowing other people to be real, which has served me really well. But I will tell you this, that when I came out, being vulnerable all of a sudden became very, very challenging for me. And it's taken I've spent a decade learning new levels of vulnerability, and I'm still learning. I mean, let's be real, I'm human. I wear the same skin everyone else does. And but the value of that is beyond measure. Like, so, and I think that's what I love. One of the things, not what I think, it's one of the things I love about you too. And the conversations that we've had outside of here is they're real and they're raw, and it's life. And I love to have those kinds of, like, I have a lot of friends, and but we all need to have just a small circle of friends that we get to do that with. And I feel like you're one of those in that circle for me, and I really appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate your
Um,
friendship too. It's changed me for sure, and it's been great.
well,
So,
thank you. Thank you. And again, we know things that we probably won't share in here today that have helped shape and mold you. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being who you are and the willingness to go through those things, and to not, like, to take what you've learned. Like, you've learned that you can create your own story, and some of that stuff's just really shitty. Like, it just is. But you've been willing to, like, move yourself through it and learn and be better, and then you take it and you put it out into the world. And I love that. So
well, thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, so speaking of putting things out into the world, can we talk about dirty little secrets?
Sure,
Yeah, because
sure.
I know you have one. I know they're not really dirty, but and there's a reason behind that. So let's go with, what's your dirty little secret, lady?
My dirty little secret is that I write stories.
What?
I'm an
What?
author.
Wait a second. You told me that as a kid you wanted to be an author and a writer. You're actually doing it?
Well, yes, I
What?
am.
Do you know that you're probably, I don't even know that I can count them on 3 fingers of people who tell me they're actually doing what they wanted to do when they were a kid?
Well, I'm doing what I want to do, but it's not easy, and
No.
it's scary.
Yeah, right. It is scary, but you're doing it. You're taking the steps.
Yes.
Okay, so do you have a pen name, or do you go by Anna-Liisa?
No, I go by a pen name. My pen name is Alex Taylor Wolf. So So I have to tell you a little bit of where I came up with that.
Yes, because you know I was going to ask.
Yes. So when I was working on my first book, I wanted to send it in to get published.
Wait, come on. You said your first book?
Yeah, sorry. I have a
have?
pet that tries to keep coming to my room all the time. Anyway, when I wrote my first book,
you have?
I have 3 published books.
Kudos.
So when I wrote my first book and I wanted to submit it for publishing, which is a hard thing to do,
I would imagine.
my husband said, let's maybe come up with a pen name because Anna-Liisa Duncan is kind of long and spelled differently. And
it's kind of distinguished.
Yeah. So I just instantly in my mind, the name Alex came to my mind. And I thought, okay, Alex. And then we played with the rest of it. But I just knew my pen name had to be Alex. And 3 years ago, when I met my birth mom, I found out I have a half brother named Alex.
No way.
Yeah. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that, obviously. And so it was in my mind, I was already connected to this name. And so I didn't even have to think about that part of my pen name. And then come to find out it's because it's in my family.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Does he know you go by Alex in the writing world? Was he just yeah?
Yeah, maybe. He's almost 20 years younger than me.
Okay.
So we're kind of in a different, he's closer to my daughter's age than he is to my age.
That's fair. That's fair. Oh my gosh. So you have 3 published books.
Yeah, they're on Amazon.
Okay. What's the genre? What do you write about?
Okay, so this is where I need to be brave because I write historical romance. But when I
historical romance.
Yes. And it feels like when I say I write historical romance that you can be judged in a couple of ways.
So wait a second. Historical romance, is that kind of I've never really watched Downton Abbey. Is that a historical romance?
That's British historical romance. Yes.
Okay. So I'm kind of in the right idea then.
Yes.
Okay.
So
keep talking.
When you say you write romance novels, people view you in one of 2 ways. You write Christian romance, which they look longingly at each other across the room, right? Or you write what in the writing world they call bodice rippers, which are harlequins, where the girl's half naked on the front of the book, right?
Okay.
So I write somewhere comfortably in the middle.
Well, the Buddha does say, find the middle way.
That's right. So that's what my books are. 2 of them are based in early American 1800s. And then another one is just a fictional place, also 1800s kind of.
Okay, so what drew you to write historical romance of all of the things that you could write? Why this?
I love to read. My mom has been reading to us. She started reading to us as children before I even remember. She's always read to us. And I started reading when I was young, and I read dozens, hundreds, thousands of books. And I like the romance because I like happy endings, because life is crazy and life sucks. And sometimes I need a happy ending.
Right.
But there are more books.
There's a lot of books with happy endings that aren't historical romance.
Yes. But a lot of books in romance are either bodice rippers or Christian. And while they're both fine, I want something that I could write that I could say, hey, Mom, do you want to read this book, and not want to hide under a pillow, right?
Gotcha.
And those are the kind of books I like to read, but there are scant few of those kind of books on the market.
I like that word, scant few.
Yeah. It's either 50 Shades of Grey or something that's not exciting, you know. I also,
And excited, like the reality is we all like to be excited.
yeah, well, and I like, so every one of my books has either a gunfight or a sword fight in it,
Okay.
because you got to have action. Life is action, right? And I just liked that, and I'm fascinated with that time period. I'm fascinated how people lived when they don't have all the things that we have. You know, like,
Right.
that's just fascinating to me. So that's the historical part, is I just love that, those time periods where people were trying to be creative with such limited resources, where, and always write a strong female lead, where women didn't have that opportunity. They were
Right.
not, couldn't own land, they weren't even their own selves. And so I love the strong female lead, where they are being the first to buy property, being the first to solve a problem. And so that's kind of where that pushed me in that direction.
So in essence, you're rewriting history.
Yes, with a strong female lead.
I love it. I've never been interested at all in romance novels of any kind, and probably not historical romance. But listening to you talk about this, I may just need to get some signed copies of Alex Taylor Wolfe's books, because it sounds fast. The way, like hearing you actually talk about it, and the way that you, like you say, that you help women have a strong role. That's something obviously I like promoting as well, and helping people stand on their own and own their own rebel, which is a re-being of who we already are. And sometimes we just need those little things. And your books sound like that may just fit the I don't even know, fit. It just may fit.
And I guess, and I think that I write historical romance because I like to read historical romance, but I do have other books kind of in the works that are not historical or romance. So
okay. I'll need signed copies of those too, but we're also going to push you to get those to the publisher.
yeah, I got to get them finished.
Okay, so tell us about those. If I remember correctly, they're not just concepts. You've actually started these. Yes, no, remind me.
Of the other ones?
Of the other ones.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have lots of books in progress. And the problem, and so this is the weird part about being a writer that people don't really understand, is the characters actually talk to me.
I was going to ask you that. Like, how do you come up with this?
Yes, so they talk to me when I'm writing a book. So sometimes I can't write. So I'm working on another book, Capturing Lady Jane, and that's another historical romance, and pirates. But when Jane is in my head, I'm not writing about Asia in my other book. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but they really do. I see, it's like a movie in my head of what's going to happen, and all the way down to sometimes details in clothing, or if there's a meal, and I even have those. So it's like having a movie talking people in my head.
Wow. I'm trying to put myself inside your head, and like what that might, like I just popped some popcorn in my own head. What that would be like. Like, what's the feeling like inside your body when that starts happening? To me, I'd be like, holy crap, like am I crazy? Like, what's going on? But then, like, can I get it down? Like, what is that like for you?
Well, I can see some of your subscribers being like, has she talked to her doctor about schizophrenia? I get really excited. Like, there are times when I'm writing, and writing is not easy ever. But sometimes it's like I just can't not write. And I just have to write, and it's like just pours out, and then I'm exhausted by the time I'm done. But when these scenes start coming in my mind and I'm seeing what's going to happen next and the interaction, because in my mind, they're people, they're real people having real interactions with each other.
Right.
And so I have to tell that story. So I just write and write and write and write. And sometimes it's not easy. Like sometimes I'm at the grocery store and then I'm actually having a conversation at the grocery store.
You're like, hold on, you got a piece of paper, you got a pen, I got some stuff going on. Like how does that work when you're in a situation like that where it's probably not the easiest just to sit down and write or to be at your computer?
I have a lot of notes on my phone.
Okay. So
I have an app on my phone. Or I'll sit down and I will type, not sit down, but I have this idea, and I pull up my notepad on my phone and I would write down the idea and sometimes those are fleeting. Sometimes those thoughts are fleeting and I'm glad I wrote them down. But usually if it's a big concept or a big idea, when I sit down at my computer, it comes back to me.
I love that. I know in my own experience, like I've had stuff happen and I'll be out on a walk or out on a run and just the downloads start coming and I'm like, okay, God, like you can see where I'm at. There is no paper available. There's no pen. I can't really pull out my phone and do this right now. Like, can you please just thank you. Thank you for this inspiration and these thought processes that I feel so alive with right now. Can you just help me remember it when I get home or when it's time for me to write it down or whatever? And sometimes it's there and others it's not. And it's frustrating for me when it's not. So does that happen very often for you?
Yes. But I've also found that maybe because that's not the final thought. Like I get I've had this line going through my head for probably 2 weeks now about sometimes it's not easy to love God. And I know I need to do something with that, but I've tried to write something down 4 or 5 times and it's coming, but it's not right. And so sometimes I think we get this impression that we need to do that. I need to write this, whatever, tell this story. But if it's not right, then it doesn't always come. Now, that doesn't mean that it is ever easy, because it's not.
Right. But is that kind of like my presentation? It doesn't feel quite right yet. And it's a week away and I don't have the slides done. And then I couldn't work on the slides anymore. It's like, oh, okay. Okay. But now I want to have one of those experiences where it's like download just it.
But you have had those experiences. I've watched you have those experiences. So we do have, and I think that is not just writing, but life.
Yes.
Like you have a friend that you want to say just the right thing to, and it doesn't come, and then pretty soon it comes. I think that's the same thing when I write. It's just in the life context. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So do you research history, like these time eras that you're writing about? Do you actually go and research them then so that you make sure you're getting the proper information and correct data inside of the actual story that then is taking place?
Yes. I have done extensive research, especially on the railroad, because a lot of my heroines come to where they need to be on a railroad. A lot of the dress. And I have done a lot of research about women's rights during those time periods too, because I don't ever want my heroines to conform. They know what is expected of them as women, but they don't conform to that. Like in my...
Are you telling me they're rebels?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my Capturing Lady Jane book that I'm working on, she actually is the captain of a ship, which in that time period, a woman never would captain a ship.
Right.
But,
wow.
So, yeah. And so I've had to do research on that, and even research on what they would eat at the time, because it's different. Life was just so different. So yeah, there's been a lot of research done.
That's so cool. So how has this question just came to mind. How has you writing about these, I'm going to call them heroines, these strong women, or women who learn to be strong, to not conform, to stand up, how has that assisted you personally? Because that's inside you somewhere, I would imagine, right? Like how do these women, what's the question? How do you reflect inside of these women, or them reflect you?
I think every woman that I write is based loosely on me, or loosely on a woman that I know that I view as a strong woman. So I think it helps me to, I don't know. I mean, part of me is like, oh yeah, I would totally do that. But then some of the things that they do, I would think, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I would be brave enough to do that. And so I think it makes me look at myself and be like, the people in my books are brave. I can be brave. Like, you
That's
know,
what I
so
wondered. Is
yeah.
if it's like you writing, like it's like your heart. I know it's not just your head that writes these books. It's your heart too. But like it's speaking to you, like these are things that you can do too. Like you're stronger than you think you are. Like I've wondered if that plays a role in your life too, and if you've seen evidence of that.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I used to be really outgoing and like a different person in college. Then you get married and you have kids, and you kind of turn inward because you're trying to survive, you know. And I think I look at the ladies in my book and I think I can do that, and then I do. Like I feel braver now than I was even 5 years ago, because I write these strong women, and yeah, like you said, I can do that. You know, I don't I don't feel like there's something that I write that I can't do. I don't know if I'm brave enough to do it all right now, but I
Right.
can do it.
Okay, that statement right there. Will you say that again? Because I think that is an important piece
That I'm not brave enough right now
in the moment. Yeah,
in
but
the
you
moment.
can do
But
them.
oh, absolutely. I think we all can do them. But and I think that's what I've struggled with for probably the past 5 years, is being brave enough. Which that's a personal struggle of mine. Which sometimes I think that people who know me feel like that's weird
Sure.
because I'm so outgoing, but inside I'm not all that brave yet.
Which I think is maybe part of why our paths crossed,
Oh yeah.
because we get to reflect that into and back and forth to each other,
Yeah.
which is super cool because we do have those moments where wow, that just made me emotional. We do have those moments where we fall down, and we sometimes forget. It's almost like we bonk our head and we kind of forget like our own amazingness, or we want to be able to do it like we did 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and that time has passed, and now it's a different way to do some of the things that we do, or brave in a different way, even though some of those it may be the same. And it's really a beautiful thing to have people who can say, I see you, I know that's in there, and I see you, and I'm not going to let you hide.
Well, and I think
And
that's
so
the beauty of yeah, like you said, having people in your life that say, when I say I'm not strong enough and you say yeah you are. And I mean, you showed me that last winter on our ski trip. You know, and sometimes you need that person there, you know, and it's not always with words. Sometimes it's just being there. But that,
yeah,
and when you feel confident and when you feel brave, that's when you do great things. And when I'm feeling good about myself and I feel confident and brave, that is when the writing happens. Because I'm ready, because my vessel is ready for that.
I love that. And don't you think that, when we talk about maybe not brave enough in the moment, that maybe just maybe there's one more step we've got to take for maybe a lesson to be learned or to be strengthened, so that when we stand on that next spot and we start writing, we know we're ready for it. Like we can take whatever comes our way, and like It's almost like it just like clicks and locks in. And we're like, okay, oh wow, I'm ready now. Like, let's do this thing.
Yeah.
And until we get to that place, then we maybe don't, man, how do I want to word that? It's not that we wouldn't be giving our best, but in essence, we're not giving our best because we're not quite ready yet.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, and there's a lot of benefit in being ready, but we can only do so much to be ready. And then sometimes you just got to jump off the cliff. And there are times that I think I've got to just have to sit down and I just have to pound this character out. And there, seriously, I've had times that I've written characters that I'm like, this character hates my guts. Like, they are not giving me nothing. What is even happening? You know, and these are people that I feel like I know in my own head. But sometimes you just got to muscle through it. And then at the end, you write I have had the opportunity to write something that I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, if I hadn't have pounded through that and gotten to know that character in a different way, that stubborn side of the character, that sometimes has changed the entire character, because before they're this nice, calm, happy go lucky person, and then you sit down to write them the next day and they're like, I'm not having anything of this. But that changes the character. It makes them deeper. So sometimes you just gotta jump. Sometimes you just have to work really, really hard, but you always get a reward in it.
I love that you just brought that up, because I was going to ask you on the, you know, waiting to be brave enough. And it's not even sometimes that we're waiting. I'm a believer of things in the right moment. Like, things happen when they're supposed to. And sometimes it's that progress over perfection. Sometimes you just gotta, so like you talking about that, like I just had sometimes have to sit down and pound it out, even though it feels like it's not coming easy like others. Would you say that that's a representation of the progress versus perfection? And you can go back and change things. Then they're like, now you're getting me. Now we can go back and redo some things or rewrite or.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what you talked about before, like in the beginning, was that sometimes you have to be ready to change. It'd be okay to have things change, because especially as I write, I see how the story, the beginning, the middle, and the end, but I don't see all the things in the middle. And sometimes I want it to go one way, and that's not where the story's going. And so you do like have to be, I have to be willing to change, and I have to be willing to say, okay, you're right, and I'm wrong, and I need to correct how I'm doing this. But it's, again, that willingness to make a change, which sometimes is the hardest when you have something in your mind the way you think it's supposed to be, and it's not. Change is really hard.
Right? I love how everything you're saying, like in your books, is so representative of just daily life. Like, you speaking this, I've been thinking as you're talking, thinking, oh my gosh, how many times have I said to myself in the last month or two, this is the plan I have for myself, but is it the plan that God has for myself? And do I need to be willing to be a little bit more malleable and go a different direction, even though I have no idea what that might be in this moment, but to be open
and that's kind of how writing is. Like I said, I know the middle, the beginning, and I know certain spots, but sometimes it's a surprise. I've gone to my husband and been like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't even believe what Kate did. That's a character in one of my books. You wouldn't even believe what Kate did. I can't even believe that she did this. And that's just life. Life is just a surprise. And yeah, there's a general idea of what's going to happen, but that's, I think, what writing is. Writing is life for me. Now, it's not like that for everybody.
I love it, because listening to you talk about it, I'm like, this is life, just written out in someone else's story,
who sometimes is braver than you are.
right? Just telling you, like, this is you. Yeah.
And I think we see that in books all the time. We read a character in a book and we feel like, oh my gosh, this is me. This person is me. And look what this person did. I can do that. I think that's what reading in general does. But
Right.
it's so fun to be able to write a character and just be surprised at them. And yeah, but
I
I
love
think
it.
that it's just life. It's awesome and it's life.
I love it. And I love you. Like, we could continue on this conversation for a very long time. And maybe we'll do a part 2 and just talk more about this, because it's
Yeah.
awesome. But before we end, one, thank you again for taking time out of your schedule to share it with us and to just share the joy that you are, and then kind of how you got to where you're at, and telling us about Alex Taylor Wolf and what she's up to and how she came to be.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you, as the watcher or the listener, to go onto Amazon. Do they just look up Alex Taylor Wolf?
Yeah, there's 3 books: Sweetwater Springs, Temperance and Treason, and A Ransomed Heart.
Okay, will you do me a favor? I heard those, but will you text those to me? And for those of you who are watching on a replay or whatever, even watching it now, I'll put those in the title or in the description so that you have them as well. But if you'll text them to me, I'll get them out for everyone else. So as closing, words to live by.
I think the same mantra that I've had for 5 years, and it's working. Be brave and be kind. And sometimes you have to be brave to be kind.
Absolutely. Because sometimes being kind, well, not sometimes, being kind means telling the truth, and that can feel tricky sometimes.
Yeah.
Be brave and be kind. I love it. I love it. I love you. Thank you.
I love
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh. Yes, we'll do it again. So for those of you who live in the area who may be interested in being brave in some different kind of ways, we have the Spitfire Ultra Trail Challenge coming up in April. It's on April 16th. It's an amazing trail race in southeastern Idaho, put on by yours truly. However, if you want to come meet Anna-Liisa Duncan, aka Alex Taylor Wolf, she's going to be there too. She'll be there to assist us and to make sure that you are well fed in all the ways. She helped us out, and she's a great addition to our team and to the atmosphere. So whether you're finding her at the Spitfire or you're going to go find her on Amazon because you're going to purchase her books, either way will be a treat. Or maybe you get to see her as at the dance studio. I don't know. However you see her, it's going to be a treat. Let us know if you are not able to connect in some way, or if you want to know more about either Anna-Liisa or Alex. Let us know, and if you've got questions, I'll make sure that we pass them on. And let's maybe look forward to book 2 of Live and Unscripted.
Okay.
All
Sounds
right.
great.
Thank you. And you guys have an amazing week. And remember that sometimes you just got to be first, and that it's easy to see the beginning and possibly the end, and you just got to be brave and get through the middle. Remember, be bold, be brave, be a rebel. We'll see you soon.
See ya.